and just brought to you this podcast to talk about your role, your work, and your journey through uh, how you came to downstream processing analysis and your current work in Reliance Life Sciences. So, if you could just give a brief introduction about yourself, we can start out with this podcast.
Okay, so shall I begin now?
Yeah.
So, hi, first of all, this is Manesh here. I've been working as a downstream verification scientist since more than 7 years now. I've been in the industry as an R&D scientist. I've also worked with the production alongside for the scale up and scale down. So I have pretty much good, decent experience in the industry, and I have also published two research articles in my master's level. So I've done my MSc in biotechnology. Previous to that, I was associated with Mumbai University for my bachelor's, and currently I look after downstream R&D, scale up, tech transfer, scale down, everything.
So, just had a few questions from my side looking at your LinkedIn, and I think what generally people would have from the biotech point of view. So, you've worked across diagnostics and now are in part of Reliance Life Sciences, right? So, how did this journey unfold for you, and what led you to specifically getting into downstream processing and process development? How did this start?
So, so in my master's tenure, I was working on my research paper. So during all the syllabus of the master's goes, in our curriculum also we had to undertake projects, research projects in the last semester. But I was very much keen into the lab works and it intrigued me a lot. So I utilized my time and I used that time. I convinced my guide and I undertook two research projects during that time, and hence I have published two research papers. So I was very much into research and wet lab work. I understood the protein and the behavior a little differently. But post my college, there were not much openings in the biotech industry, so I had to take up what I was getting during that time. So I went into specialized test in the diagnostic division of microbiology and molecular biology. But there also my research focused, my work focused on uh, different difficult samples and screening and a lot of gene mapping and everything. So it intrigued me a lot, and as soon as I got an opportunity into biotech, I took that opportunity and I took up downstream process.
So currently, as your role in as a research fellow at Reliance, what do you actually do as a part of your role in Reliance? What
Uh, in
exactly in
Reliance,
downstream particularly are you
okay.
working with?
So how the way the downstream works over here or wherever in the industry, it is the same, that we get something from upstream, a harvest or a cell culture, that we have to purify our protein of interest free from most of the process and product related impurities. We polish the protein, we remove the impurities, we remove the viruses that are there. We modify if there are any challenges that are present along with the protein. If, for example, if there is a fusion protein, there are a lot of things that that could be associated with the fusion protein. So we'll have to take care of that as well. So polishing, purification, right from the very crude harvest till the drug product that is filled in the bottle is taken care by me over here, and that is how downstream usually works. Downstream is usually till you produce drug substance, but over here in Reliance we focus on drug product as well. So downstream takes care of right from clarification to the final drug product.
So has there been any drug product that you are particularly working on at the moment?
Can you repeat that question a little louder?
Yeah. Has there been any drug product that you are working on currently, right now,
There are drug
at
products that I
Reliance?
am working on currently. So usually in industry, how it occurs is you cannot focus on one molecule at a time. There are competition in the market. There are timelines to beat. There are some patents that are getting expired or something. You have to focus on that. So usually in a year there are 3 to 6 projects that are working simultaneously in different stages. So there are some stages that are molecules that are in preclinical stages, that are some in very early stage of development and all. There are some that are in consistency level. So yeah, I am working on some drug products and drug development of drug substances, downstream purification processes as well. So it includes your monoclonal antibody as well as your fusion proteins.
Oh, that's pretty interesting actually. And for a student who actually has, since at least as you mentioned in biotech in our undergrad, we don't get to actually visualize downstream processing as much due to lab limitations, and we don't actually get to move outside for any, let's say, out of project focus work to actually look at how it happens in, let's say, in an industry. So what would you suggest, particularly for a student who is just going through the textbook, and what are the differences you have actually viewed in real life?
So the students, I would advise that textbook is important as far as you are want to stick to the basics. But when you come outside in the real world, basics are going to be something that you will give you a head start. But when you start working, you'll realize that the application of basics is something very much different than how you have imagined it, how it is pictured to you while teaching. In reality, in practical scenarios, the I'll give you a very small example of pH and pI. pI is an isoelectric point. So if you put a pH of the solution, to maintain the pH of a solution below the pI, the net charge over the molecules should be positive. The same goes when the pH is set above pI, the net charge of the molecule should be negative. But this is an ideal case scenario. In practical scenario, there are a lot of impurities or there are a lot of conjugate that might be there with along with your protein, and your protein might not exactly behave the way it is as per the definition. So the basics are very much important because the trickier the molecule, the finer the basics that you need. So stick to the basics, but also look out for the practical applications. We read about the how the things that are culturally done and how the advanced technology are getting in picture now. So a basic protein chromatography resin based is now getting turned into membrane based chromatography. So there is a lot of difference that is happening over there. Quick things and a lot of things. Just like e-commerce is now shifting to quick commerce, we are shifting from column chromatography to membrane chromatography.
Yeah. So, and additionally, to talk about it, you mentioned process characterization, right? So, what does it mean in your day-to-day, let's say, work? How does it act? How would you explain it to, let's say, an undergraduate student who is very new to these terms and hasn't actually come across it practically?
Have you ever prepared tea?
Yes.
So there is a simple now let's say there is a simple SOP of how you will prepare a tea. You will take X amount of milk, you will take X amount of sugar, and you will add everything and you will boil it for X amount of time and you will get some a broth preparation that will filter out and you will get some tea. That is a simple process that you have set. You can go to the process. Let's say if you have to add tablespoon of sugar, you go and add 1.5 tablespoon of sugar because that much of sugar is fine. So your product, your tea is still okay. It's still consumable. Now, what would happen if you add more amount of sugar, or if you add everything at a higher end, or everything at a lower end, or if you go a little beyond that? What would be the impact on your product? Will it still be consumable? The quality of the product
No,
will still be intact?
no,
That is
not really.
theoretical. We don't know yet. That you are preparing tea based on the set procedure. What if it is working beyond that procedure as well? What if addition of 1.5 sugar is actually enhancing its taste? Or if not enhancing its taste, it is not exactly destroying its quality. So to learn how your process is robust enough, the procedure that you are following is robust enough, and what is the extreme point where your process will break down and it will start impacting your quality of the product. That is how is you study in process characterization. You push beyond the limits that you have set already. You work on the very extremities, and then you study how your protein is behaving in a column. how your protein is behaving during your filtration stages. What is the quality that you are getting when you are pushing it to the extremities? This all, when you put it statistically, you'll find something very vivid data. When you use biostats and you make sense of those data, you will understand how your process is being characterized. So that is how the whole picture of characterization works.
Thanks, that actually made it quite clear to understand and love the analogy as well. So, to talk about what we do as a part of Biotech, since we are a platform which operates digitally primarily, so we focus on enhancing skills on the informatics side of the point of view. So, is there any specific informatics or statistics that you feel in industry would be very required in addition to, let's say, working in wet lab, in protein characterization or in purification or whatever you are working on? And you also mentioned stats, right? So, what type of statistics? And yeah,
I would
just to know
suggest
about that.
I would suggest, see, there are a lot of competition in the market. There are a lot of things that goes around, buzzes around, and the students that are there during the, say, I've been there, so I know what is the status, how the pressurized people feel, what is the level of competition that they are imagining outside. I would simply suggest stick to the basics. No standard deviation, no ANOVA. How do you apply ANOVA? No toast. This basic stats. Just don't go into a lot of equation based or DOE based things. Don't start doing DOEs, design experiments, and then start analyzing everything on your own right now. Just stick to the basics. Do stats based on ANOVA, whatever there is in the textbook. Pick up your undergrad textbook, take ANOVA, toast, one way analysis, and whatever there is there, standard deviation, and stick to it. You will understand when you start doing a major project, for example DOE or OFAT, during using a statistical tool, they use something like this for their analysis. So if your basics are very much clear, you will get there very quick.
And according to you, what is something currently students don't really prioritize on that they actually should? Let's say if one is moving from bachelor's and wants to go into industry or pharma, or let's say like as a research associate, what do they actually prioritize? Because one is getting through the application process, but the second is the interview. So what type of questions are asked and where do you think there's a gap, or what are students lacking in currently, according to you?
What type of questions are asked during the interview you are suggesting? I'm not sure. Can you repeat your question?
Not really interview. What I meant was, what are the things that students or gaps that students currently lack, and what, like, because as far as I know, since I'm the undergrad student myself, many of us think that getting the hi-fi terms and getting maybe uh reading up as, let's say, an overlay of multiple subjects without going deep in one actually means that we have gathered more knowledge and we would be fit for, let's say, an interview in multiple sections. So, what exactly in an industry, particularly, especially in Reliance, for example, in your, let's say, when you were entering Reliance and you were to get hired, right? So, what were some of the questions they asked, and what do you think they do ask currently, and what do students lack? That was like my general point.
Okay, so now see, if I start comparing to the question that I was asked, they were much more advanced and much more technical, that you'll only understand when you start working in an industry. Okay, so but for somebody who is recently joining the biopharma industry or wanting to join biopharma industry, I have repeated this multiple times. I want to give a strong emphasis on this again as well. Stick to the basics. People do not want you to use fancy terminologies if you know your basics, because fancy terminologies can be studied as well. But if you don't know how to calculate your Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, you'll not be able to prepare a simple buffer. Right. So in industry level, you cannot take, when you are preparing a lot of buffer, let's say a small quantity of 50 liter, if you are preparing in industry level, you cannot take a micropipette and sit and titrate it. Okay, so you have to use your Anderson-Hasselbalch equation to get the exact pH value that you want for your buffer. So when you know the whole the chemistry part of it, how your protein is getting interacting and all those fancy terminologies, it is okay. But if you don't know the basics, I would not select you as an interviewer, because I cannot come day in and day out and sit and teach you how to make a buffer, because that is what is expected out of you from the curriculum that you have passed.
And basics, what would you define as basics for someone entering the industry? Any like particular subject they should be strong in, or how
So
does
if you
that?
want to, so it depends upon which field, as in biopharma, which domain do you want to join? If you want to join upstream or cell line development, get sturdy with your post translation modification, how translation occurs, what kind of feed or what kind of additives that you do, or the temperature that you would maintain, or temperature shift that you would give, the bioreactor shape, size, the make of the bioreactor, the use of the sparger, and all, how it will affect the quality of the protein, how it will affect the environment of your bioreactor. So this on all you need to maintain when you need to be focused on when you want to get into upstream or into cell biology, molecular biology, right? And when you want to get into downstream, you must focus more on how the chemistry, the biochemistry works. So simply there is this book called Leninger. In Leninger, there is as far as I remember, it is chapter 2, water. So in water, it is completely given the breakdown of how you calculate your pH and the acid base and everything. If you are thorough with it, a lot of chemistry will be solved. And if you are into analytical or something, you need to focus on how a chromatography column works, how HPLC works, how do you resolve it on a HPLC column. But that is much more technical. If you understand this two things, how your PTM works, PTM is post translation modification, and how your translation machinery occurs, what are the factors that are influencing the translation and the product that is generated by it, and the simple basics of chromatography, you are good to go.
Thanks, really helped a lot. And let's say there are like multiple master students currently who would be, let's say, going for their thesis. So, what is your suggestion on that? If they are doing their thesis right now, what are the one or two things they can do to make their project more industry relevant or more, let's say, specific to an industry that they would want to get in the future?
It doesn't matter which industry you want to get into, make your thesis technical enough. Okay, try introducing stats. Don't just apply theories and all. You prove your theories, apply logic, use stats. It's a simple thing. And if possible, try to get a paper out of it. It may not be very much helpful in the future, but you will have something of your own.
And what about, let's say, profiles like official profiles, like LinkedIn profiles, and what people post on that, let's say, articles or blogs? Do you think those also hold a due weightage when a person is getting hired, let's say?
So, in
Like
biopharma
their
industry, if I say,
exploration. Yeah.
if in biopharma industry, I'd say, the person who is interviewing you or is looking out for you is technical. He doesn't care what you're posting on LinkedIn. So even if you're blogging over there, or if you're writing long posts, it is okay. It is good for your connections. Your connections would know what you're doing and all. But in interview per se, nobody is going to open your LinkedIn side by side to see how you are doing in life. It is just your technical knowledge and presentation, how it is going to be. That would decide whether you'll be selected for the job or not. The HR does not have a say in this, since you will be coming from universities and you'll be freshers. The HRs will definitely will interview you, but the major round of the interview that will be held with would be a technical person. He will not look up for your LinkedIn profile.
Thanks. I think most of us needed that clarity because we do post quite a lot, and especially some of us do write as well based on what we do learn. But yeah, it's important to know and keep it as technical whenever you are actually required to present yourself. And lastly, one question I'd like to ask is, let's say 5 to 10 years in the future, how do you see downstream processing and bioprocess development changing, and what skill set do you think would be in demand at that point? Other than, of course, knowing the basics, as you have mentioned, what else do you think would be required? Would it be more of an additional stats and a little bit of computer based as well, or
I wouldn't think that it would be a lot of computer-based thing. Apart from the chromatography software that we have already in the picture, we do not think that there'll be much more anything addition to it, because in downstream processing, you are much more focused on your chromatography. So chromatography, you have a software, you have your column, you have your buffers. That is something that is not going to be replaced, because that is how traditionally things occur. But definitely the approach towards the purification is going to change. The industry is shifting into more single use platforms, wherein the level of contamination is much reduced, and single use actually gives a lot of advantages in a lot of things. Your viral clearance and everything is also much more refined using single use filters. Apart from that, other filters, membrane filters, that I also earlier mentioned, that the chromatography columns are now shifting into the membrane platforms. So that is something that I think 5 to 10 years down the line will be a complete different game over there, where you are focusing much more on your membrane-based platforms than rather than your traditional chromatography thing. But traditional chromatography will never ever go away. It will always be there, because that is a gold standard for purification. Even membrane filtration, they use the concepts of theories and the principle of chromatography. So that is always going to be there. The platforms are going to change. You will get much more rapid processes down the line. So I wouldn't recommend going in much more into the AI that people are much more into, that 5 to 10 years down the line everything will be AI generated. In our thing, there'll be nothing be taken from AI. Of course, there'll be somewhere there'll be accommodation of AI, could be possibly, but human mind is something that we'll always need in our field at least. So again, there'll be in 5 to 10 years down the line, there'll be nothing major that is going to change apart from the, of course, I'm talking with respect of technicalities and principles. The application part, of course, it will change a lot.
and one other question I did have with respect to Indian companies in pharma and companies abroad, do you think there is a big difference, or what is the difference in the scale of downstream processing itself? And how is it like coming up, let's say 10 years in the past, present, and in the future?
So when I compare Indian biopharma industry with somewhere outside, we are much more faster. Indian companies, we are much more competitive as compared to the international companies, because we are working on let's say 6 molecules at a time, wherein they are working maybe on two. So that is a huge difference. We do push our limits usually as Indians. Our basic mindset is we'll push our limits, we'll work beyond time to just get things done. But this is an approach that Indians have. Apart from it, internationally, this is not the approach that everybody follows. So they are very much strict to their personal and work-life balance and everything. So because of that, of course, the resources, the availability of resources and everything is much more higher and advanced internationally in a lot of companies that are there. So internationally also the market is divided into two halves, wherein the resources and everything is available very majorly over here, and then the other half there is very scarce. So India falls somewhere in between. So 5 to 10 years down the line as well, Since Sun Pharma recently have acquired a Biopharma division of US, and now so probably the tech transfer and everything will be done in India. So a lot of things, a lot of companies would come to India is what I think. But because Biopharma is the future, it we are living in the future right now, and in future also there'll be a lot of things that will be there. So Indian companies are going to do well, of course. Internationally, you get to work on novel biologics also, which Indian companies are very. I would. I don't have a decent term, but they are not very much focused onto the novel biologics in India because we have a very financial mindset that we are getting money out of here. We'll focus over here because novel biologics takes a lot of time, which India does not have. So it,
Experimentation. Yeah.
experimentation, yes.
And one question personally, I think, which bachelor's and master's students would have. What do you think is the preferred route going into industry after BTech? Because most of the companies that do come in don't take in BTech biotech students, prefer masters, of course. And
Yeah,
there are options of doing a PhD as well and then shifting to industry pharma. So, what do you compare these three lines, and which do you think is, let's say, a better route? Or is there a better route at all? Or does it depend on, let's say, person to person?
for PhD, I would say that it would depend a person to person. It is a personal response thing that if you want to pursue PhD, you can definitely go for PhD. I would personally recommend to get a master's degree before joining industry. You can do some side gig or something during your master's thing. If you can get, you would be lucky enough that if you are getting something like that. But getting a master's, BTech might get you an entry into the industry. But going ahead in future, you might need a master's degree to move up the ladder. So it is always better to have a master's degree rather than bachelor's. If you have an opportunity, or if you don't, I would say make an opportunity to do your master's because that would be very much important. PhD, I am not very much talking about because that is something that has a personal call. If you want to pursue PhD, if you are keen enough, you can. If you don't want to, you can join the industry. There are a lot of opportunities in industry as well. If you pass a certain period of time in an industry in a company, the company allows you or sponsors you for a PhD program, so you can pursue that as well.
I don't think I have any other further questions. So yeah, thanks a lot really for coming today and for the session. I really appreciate it and all the suggestions you gave. The one thing that you also kept telling was the basics. So that is something I think everyone needs to keep. One is trying to keep up, but also not forgetting the basics that you build through, because it's easy to get distracted when things are spiraling a lot and
True.
so many advancements are coming up in like just the recent year itself. If you look at protein itself, AlphaFold and everything just came up, and so many models, everything's coming up. So yeah, thanks a lot, and yeah, have a great evening.
You too.